Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby. I got to be honest, usually when I start the show, I am full of energy and enthusiasm. But I got to be honest, today I am not well. The news that came out early this morning that we lost the late, great Tony Saladino at the age of 89 years old. An incredible article already written by our good pal Jared Guthrie from 813preps.com. I implore everybody out there to go read that. An article that discusses his life. And, we're going to talk about a lot of different things on the program today. We'll have Adam Slivon joining us from Pewter Report at 12:30 to talk about Jalen McMillan and all things Buccaneers. We'll chat with the voice of USF Athletics. Jim Louk is going to join us at 1 o'clock. But we're going to spend the first half hour of the show today on remembering the late, great Tony Saladino. Awfully tough. This is a man who was such a fantastic example of what it meant to be a father and a husband and a friend and a man and a person that represented our city. We could all be so lucky to have a legacy that Tony left here on our community. And this is why I'm grateful to have this podcast, is to be able to have this platform, to be able to discuss his life. Right. This isn't a radio show where we're going to talk about Jalen McMillan and him being out. And obviously I understand it's important for the masses, but we're Tampa first and foremost right here on this show. I just remember the first time ever going to the Saladino tournament as a member of Freedom High School and going to Brandon High and just looking at the pageantry of it all and how many people were there and volunteering, and it was amazing. The buzz was palpable. And I remember the little Hall of Fame recognizing all of the pro players that played in the Saladino tournament over the years. Everybody from the Sheffields and Tino Martinez and Fred McGriffs and all the way to the Kyle Tuckers and Lance McCullers of the world. And then I remember meeting Tony and Bertha very early on and how great they were and how warm and welcoming, and how you felt part of the family. And family meant everything to Tony. Married to Bertha for 52 years. And just getting to know the Saladino family and getting as close with them over the last couple of just the last decade or so. I'm always incredibly grateful for how they've treated me. Today's a tough day in Tampa. Because, again, you want to talk about a guy like Tony Saladino who gave everything to this community. The Tony Saladino Award given to the best player in Hillsborough County, the Saladino tournament that is the greatest spring break baseball tournament in the entire country. And just how incredibly giving and loving Tony and Bertha were. I can't say enough nice things about him. I mean, it's not my loss, and I post these things on social media, and it's not my loss. It's our loss. It's our community's loss. Again, Tony was the best of us. And you can only hope to leave a legacy as impactful as his. I mean, he passed away from heart failure at the age of 89, but his heart didn't fail at all. I mean, it was the driving force that made a man who was barely 5 feet tall an absolute giant in our community. And over the years, just being around him, every single time you would go and chat with Tony Saladino, you walked away and you felt like you were a better person. It was very similar to, talking to a Leroy Selman or a Tony Dungy. When you walked away, you're like, man, how lucky am I to be able to spend time with him? Longtime educator in Hillsborough County. This is a guy that baseball meant the world to him. And I remember going to his house, and it was like a museum in there where there was like a picture of Orestes Estrada next to a picture of like George Bush, and just baseballs and just history everywhere. A mini Cooperstown at his house, with a baseball field in the front yard. And, the last time I saw Tony was about a month ago in the hospital there at Tampa General. And, I wanted to see him over the last couple of weeks, but as you guys know here on the show, I haven't been feeling all that well, and still kind of battling this cough. And I didn't really want to go knowing that his health was compromised, and I didn't want to make things worse. But I remember the last time I saw Tony, and I was in the hospital with him, and the nurse walked in, and the nurse said, "Oh, is this your friend?" And Tony said, "Great friend." Great friend. That was Tony for you. I mean, he was that guy. He wanted to make sure that you felt special, that you felt included. I also remember one time, because when you were at University of Tampa, you'd go see him with his grandson Nico, back-to-back national champions for our Tampa Spartans. Every single time you would go to the birdcage there, you would make sure, or at least I would, you got to go, go see the Don. You go see the Godfather. And he would always sit in the same spot there on the third base side. And, you walk past a bunch of people, and every single time, I don't care, I would I would blow past people that I've known for years just because I had to go say hi to Tony. That was the first thing that I had to do, as the priority every single time. And I remember this was a couple years ago, and I walked over there, and I walked up to him, and this was during one of the times where Tony wasn't doing too well. And I went up and I shook his hand and I gave him a hug. And he said, "Hey, Jay, great to see you." And his son Tiger came up to me afterwards and said, "Dad's not really doing too well." And the first time that he said anything all day was when you came up and said hello. Tony and I were able to, we just shared a bond. Every single time that we were in the vicinity, we knew that it was going to be a 5, 10, 15, 20-minute conversation. And I always wanted to know, like, who he admired, who are the players that he loved watching. And he had so much love for Wade Boggs and Tony and Tino Martinez and Fred McGriff. And, him being a Jefferson alum, I know those Jefferson guys meant the world to him. And he always told me how important that Pop Cuesta and Frank Permui and Coach Jim Macaluso and Coach John Crumley and everybody, how important they were to him, because he loved baseball and he loved Tampa. And we love Tony. We always will. Again, if you missed the fantastic article written by my pal Jarrett Guthrie from 813preps.com, please go check it out. It's incredibly well done. Jarrett Guthrie has done so much for high school baseball in our Tampa Bay area. He and Tony had that in common, incredibly. It starts off with life is a bunt, a sacrifice. the Saladino Baseball Tournament, which played its 43rd installment in March. It's something special to our area. And Tony was a guy that impacted so many people. And I remember being at the World Series the last 2 years in Cary, North Carolina, where UT was able to win. And, especially this year with the dramatic comebacks. And if you missed it, I posted on my social media videos of Nico, his grandson, getting all these different hits. And, I put the camera on Tony and just so emotional. And to see all the different people and his daughter, Cheryl, and seeing Julie Urso, Joe's wife, and just everybody celebrating with him and him just to tears. It meant the world to him. And to be able to sit there last year and this year after the win at the celebration at the hotel and just being able to sit there with him and to be able to talk to him. And tough, man. Today's a tough day. We lost one of the greatest people to ever live in Tampa. That's not hyperbole. It's not just because him. It's not just because of what, it's the legacy. It's that name, the Saladino name, that is going to ring throughout history. It doesn't get more Tampa than Saladino. Joe Urso and Sammy Militello and Jose Jimenez and the whole crew over there at UT and what they were able to do this past year. I was a part of the ring ceremony, and they gave Tony a ring for their 9th championship. They now have 10. But seeing Sammy walk over to Tony and to give him that ring and how much it meant to Tony, it was incredible. Absolutely incredible. The way that Joe and the whole crew made Tony feel like part of the team and part of the family. And not like they made him feel. He was. And speaking of family, this year, during the Saladino tournament final between Bloomingdale and Strawberry Crest, my mom and dad were in town. So we went over there and went to the University of Tampa, and I brought him over and I introduced my mom and dad to Tony Saladino, and he was so happy to meet them. He wasn't in his customary spot in the stands. He was actually sitting in a chair. And he met my mom and dad, and he stood up and he showed my mom and dad his championship ring. He was so proud of it. Top of it popped open, and he said, "You know what I keep in there?" My mom and dad said, "What?" He goes, "My Viagra." So you did, like, it was, and it wasn't crass. It wasn't like, he wasn't being rude or anything like that. My mom and dad thought it was the funniest thing, and it was hilarious. And he was so proud of himself because of that joke. And it was funny as hell. But he was so happy to meet them. After that day, every single time I saw Tony Saladino, he asked about my mom and dad. Every time. Baseball field, ceremonies, just seeing him at the celebration over there at Josephine's in Brandon on 60. And even in the hospital a month ago, the first thing he would always ask was, "How is mom and dad?" The word that keeps coming up in my mind when I'm thinking about Tony Saladino is legacy, legend and legacy. You can have all the money in the world, but you can't take it with you when you leave this earth. All you can really hope for is that what you did while you were here left an indelible mark on the people around you so that you'll be remembered for as long as possible. I don't know if I've ever met somebody. I don't know if I've ever been around somebody that I consider a friend, a great friend, that impacted more people in a positive way than Tony Saladino. I mean, people walked up to that guy like he was the freaking Pope. They would bend the knee. They would kiss the ring. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't one of them. I want you to watch some of those videos that I posted on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, and just watch some of those videos and to see how happy he was and see how happy everybody was around him. Our last time speaking, he spoke to me about how his dad passed away at a young age at the bowling alley. Tony was there. Heart attack. I think it was 35 or 45. So the fact that Tony lived to 89 years old, he told me, Jay, I didn't think I'd live this long. And he did. And he lived. He lived his life. And the impact that he's had on others. I mean, just looking at the outpouring of love and emotion on social media, there's so much bullshit on social media nowadays. Everything is so damn negative, and it's just like, oh my God, it's just draining. And then you see today, and you see, everybody from Wade Boggs to, I'm looking at the current coach at Jefferson High School, Spencer Nunez, and everybody in between. And I spoke to Jarrett Guthrie, my pal again from A13preps.com. I called him this morning knowing that he already knew. And he said something very poignant to me, which was just another example of make sure you tell people that you love them while they're still here. I feel terrible that I've not felt well enough to be able to see him the last couple of weeks. I've tried to check in as often as possible with his son Tiger. But I'm very glad that I went to the hospital about a month ago to see him and be able to share that time with him. He was trying to feed me, eat this, eat this. I'm like, dude, you have to eat. I say this a lot, and I'll continue to say it on a day like today. You have to. It's like, life is short. It's here and gone before you know it. And all we have is the memories of the loved ones that we've shared those moments with. So if you're estranged or you don't think you can make a phone call because of ill will or because of bad blood, get rid of that shit, man. Get rid of that. You never know. You never know. And we knew that Tony's health wasn't great, and this wasn't necessarily a surprise. Doesn't make it hurt any less. The impact is going to be felt for a very, very long time. It's never going to stop. It's never going to be forgotten. That's a name that's going to live in history, not just in baseball in this area, but just in Tampa as a whole. I keep going back to the way he would treat people and how excited he was to see me and see my friends and family and to see all the people out there. And, 6 months ago or so when the Italian national baseball team was here and they had the big announcement with UT and Mike Piazza and Tino Martinez were there, and I showed up a little late. And when I showed up a little late, I walked in and they said, "Hey, we got a special seat at you. We got a special seat for you at this table. Is it okay if you sit here?" And at that table was my good pal Paul Russo, Sammy Militello, Pop Cuesta, Jimmy Macaluso, and Tony Saladino. It's the best seat in the house. I remember how much I really fell in love with the Saladino tournament over the years. And even after I was coaching and got into broadcasting, Paul and I actually broadcast the game between Alonzo and Steinbrenner in the championship game. And I just remember being on the third base side and interviewing after the game Londi Faedo from Alonzo, spending time with Londi over the years, eating some food between games. And it was the first tournament since Bertha had passed. I learned something as a broadcaster the other day. I felt so bad because Londi was heated. They lost in the finals. And I asked him about, what does this mean? First tournament since Bertha passed away. And he was so conflicted because he was so, pissed off that they lost. And then I asked him that question. He was like, he couldn't even be pissed anymore. He's like, damn, I put him in such a bad spot. And I'm sorry, Londi. I love you, buddy. Because he has so much love for the Saladino family. We all do. We always will. We put so much stock into what we have, tangible things, money, cars, clothing, our house, and all that stuff. You can't take that with you. People aren't going to remember that stuff. They're going to remember how you made them feel. They're going to remember what you did to help your friends and your family and your community. A lasting impact, a lasting legacy. Who's done that better than Tony Saladino here in Tampa? And how ironic, too. One of the things that we were talking about the last time we spoke was Al Lopez, Hall of Famer, Tampa guy through and through, and how he wishes that more teachers and more coaches and more people in the Bay Area would show love to Al Lopez. And he spoke to me about how former major leaguers, including Ted Williams, that he communicated with Ted Williams about Al Lopez and how important it was and how he was the man and how everybody looked up to him. And he was just the model citizen for our area and how he hopes his legacy never perishes. And it's ironic because tomorrow is actually Al Lopez's birthday. The great Tony Saladino. Was hoping he would get to 90. That was the joke that we were having. You look okay. The last time I saw him, he looked okay. And he's sitting there in a hospital gown, eating this food from Josephine's. Our good buddy Jay Fox makes sure that he didn't go hungry. Yeah, man. Not an easy day. Not an easy day here in Tampa Bay. And if you're one of those people that has ever crossed paths with him, you totally understand what I'm getting at, what I'm talking about. Because even though, again, he was a small guy, I mean, these kids nowadays talk about aura. This dude, it was bursting out of his fingertips, his aura, his greatness, his generosity, his love for his family, and just we put so much stock into our heroes and our idols being professional athletes and movie stars and musicians. I think about what I would talk about today on this show if this didn't happen. We act like an injury to a player is going to be okay. Division realignment, upcoming football games, like how important that is. But in the grand scheme of it, is it? I've interviewed every single high-profile athlete here in Tampa in the last 10 years, and all that shit pales in comparison to getting to know and to being around a guy like Tony Saladino. Seeing the emotion on his face when Nico had 9,575 hits in the World Series this year. Being around the family, the extended family. That's way more important than the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup or the Bucks winning the Super Bowl or going to a WrestleMania or national championship game. It's not even close. So don't forget, man, it's not the money. It's not the cars. It's the people. It's the people. And to have a guy like Tony Saladino, and for him, again, in the hospital room last month. Is that a friend? Great friend. That's what he was. Great friend, great father, great husband, grandfather, baseball fan. He will always be Tampa. Not Tampa baseball. He'll be Tampa. This place meant everything to him. This dude always wore jeans. 99 degrees outside. I'm like, you're nuts, dude. I got to do it. Shirt tucked in. Look like $1 million. Big old ring. Yeah, man. We lost an absolute giant in our community today. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Life is short. Tell your loved ones that you love them, you miss them, spend as much time as humanly possible with them. Spend that extra $200 to go on the trip, to go to a family reunion. Drive that extra 30 minutes to make that ballet recital or Little League game. Wake up early, stay late. Those are the moments that are going to live with you forever. It's not the money. It's not the phones. It's not the laptops. It's not the video games. It's not the shoes. It's not the ties and the suits. That's not the shit you're going to be thinking about at the end. You're going to think about your family. You're going to think about your friends. You're going to think about the moments that you were able to share with your loved ones. So again, follow me on all social media platforms. Once we hear information about any of the services or celebrations of life, we'll definitely pass that on to you guys. But again, we lose the great Tony Saladino this morning at 89 years young, and we should all try to live our lives like Tony and leave a legacy that will last forever. All right, guys, let's flip the script a little bit. Only way that we know how. And we're going to talk some Buccaneer football. We're going to do it with our guy, Adam Slivon from Pewter Report. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing well, Jay. Happy to be on with you and talk about some Bucs football. There was a big injury update today that Todd Bowles shared, and the ramifications of it are huge.
Yeah, you got that right, buddy. And let's get right into that right now. Give us kind of the update on Jalen McMillan and what that means for that wide receiver room.
Yeah, so Todd Bowles, he's not the kind of guy that likes to give notable injury updates. He'll say, oh, guy has a knee, guy has a leg, guy has an ankle. You're like, yeah, I know, but what about it?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't provide some great news about Jalen McMillan. He emphasized the word severe twice in mentioning his neck strain, and he's going to miss the start of the regular season. So that's a huge blow to the wide receiver room going forward. And for McMillan, it's scary because neck injuries, they're kind of finicky. Like, it's a really soft area to suffer an injury, and there really isn't a precedent of it in recent years. I was talking to Scott Reynolds a little bit. He mentioned Mike Allstott. His career kind of ended with a neck injury. John Lynch, part of the reason he wasn't kept around in Tampa Bay was because of his neck. And then going back a little bit, Nick Collins of the Packers back in 2011, his career ended just off a routine play, but his neck got compressed. So it's a scary injury. It was a scary hit. And now with McMillan out, it's really the Mike and Emeka show.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What were your thoughts on the throw? Because it just seemed like that ball was hung up there forever. Nobody's really looking at this whole thing and putting any of this blame on Teddy, are they?
I hope not. But at the same time, the pass was lobbed, and you don't want to put your wide receiver in a position where he could get hurt. And unfortunately, it ended up being the case that Jalen McMillan, he took a huge hit from the Steelers defensive back, but I don't think people should be blaming Teddy. At the same time, you don't want to make that throw in the preseason. So,
yeah, I'm with you, buddy. So you said Mike and Emeka show. This draft pick of Emeka Egbuka looks way smarter now because of the injuries to Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan. What about the rest of that wide receiver room, Adam? How does this affect kind of who they're going to keep and maybe how many wide receivers they're going to keep as they start the season?
Yeah, with the news of J-Mac joining Godwin out to begin the year, I think the Bucs keep 6 wide receivers, Jay. And I think it will be a thing where Sterling Shepard, he makes the team, but he kind of gets cut, so he doesn't get his contract fully guaranteed. And then they bring him back on the practice squad and then elevate him to begin the year. So I think in week 1, Sterling Shepard will be wide receiver 3. You still have Tez Johnson. As a return guy, he might see a little bit more action in the offense. And then Ryan Miller, I think, really kind of round out the room. And you still have Garrett Green, who he's shown some ability to return and kind of get a grasp of things, converting from a college quarterback to an NFL wide receiver. It's difficult, but he's shown an ability to. But I think you're going to see Sterling see a lot of action on offense. Tez kind of be worked in there a little bit. And then Ryan Miller, he adds value as a blocker. He caught a couple touchdowns last year. And hey, it's Baker Mayfield.
What does this mean what about guys like Palmer and also Rakim Jarrett? These are two guys that have been around. We know their names. They know this offense, you would think. But, man, even with this, injury to Jalen McMillan, it doesn't seem like we're hearing more of their names. That can't bode well for either one of those gentlemen.
Yeah, they've had really quiet camps and preseasons. And, I mean, going back to last year when Mike and Chris were down in the middle of the season, the Bucs really needed a wide receiver to step up. You didn't see Palmer and you didn't see Rakim Jarrett do anything. So I think they're on the outside looking in the wide receiver room, but maybe they find a way on the practice squad just based on their familiarity with the offense. But I don't see them making much of an impact.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What about some other guys that reappeared today or that were on the sidelines for practice?
Yeah, so it was encouraging. You saw Rachaad White out there after he was injured with a groin injury earlier in camp. Antoine Winfield Jr., he went back out there and he had an interception. So it seems like whenever he gets injured and he comes back, he has a knack of making a play. So you saw those two come back. And then also there was one other guy. Oh, Bryce Hall, the cornerback. He came back too. So there's so much depth in the cornerback room. I think it's one of the tightest position battles. So seeing Bryce Hall come back and maybe he gets to play a little bit in the 3rd preseason game, I think that'll be good for him.
Adam, where's your level of concern with a guy like Benjamin Morrison? I mean, obviously, when you talk about the kid, it's, hey, he's a first-round talent, but he was in the 2nd round because of the injury with the hip. But now he's dealing with another injury. It's like we've had too many discussions, in my opinion. I don't like having discussions about health with young players. I hated having that conversation about Kalijah Cansey and other like
Yeah.
you want these guys. You don't get healthier as you get older. So what's the update on Benjamin Morrison? Any concern that he won't be ready for week 1?
Yeah, so Benjamin Morrison, he's been out there every day during training camp. I mean, I saw him today just kind of standing around with the other cornerbacks. And I mean, he's getting those mental reps, Jay, like he's seeing and kind of visualizing things, but that at the same time, it only goes so far. Like you need to be out there, you need to be making plays. And for someone who, he slipped in the draft because of a hip injury, like again, that's kind of a sensitive like area too, where you don't want to see him like not see the field at all. Like as a rookie, as a second round pick, you need to be on the field. You need to be contributing. So far, we haven't really seen that. We saw little glimpses of him moving around during OTAs and mini camp, but right now is the time that you need to be getting these reps in. And the fact that he's not there, it does cast a little bit of doubt that he'll be ready week 1. And even if he is, I don't think he's going to see much of the field probably until later in the year.
Yeah, that's rough. What about the quarterback position and Teddy Bridgewater coming in? I mean, what's your take on this whole backup quarterback situation? Because with that being, I mean, Kyle Trask, I mean, you don't have Teddy Bridgewater in here if you have full, belief that Kyle Trask would be able to do the job if Baker goes down in some form or fashion. What's your take on the quarterback position? And how do you think that's going to shake out, in the beginning of the season, quarterback 2, quarterback 3?
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's a little bit of controversy now when it comes to the quarterback room, because after the first preseason game, Jay, I thought that Kyle Trask, he solidified himself as quarterback 2. He completed 75% of his passes, looked real efficient, right? And then you see what Teddy Bridgewater does in the second preseason game. He throws 2 well-placed touchdown throws to Bucky Irving and Emeka Egbuka. His leadership, being a veteran, being a guy that's been in the NFL for a decade now, like all of that kind of weighs in to where, like, God forbid something were to happen to Baker Mayfield. Right. Who would you trust? Who would you put in the game and say, hey, win us a game or 2? Would you do Kyle Trask, who has thrown 12 or 11 passes in the NFL across 4 years, or Teddy Bridgewater, who's started 65 games? He's won 33 of them. He was a Pro Bowler. He has that experience. And I think he has better command of like leading guys. Like there's a reason why he was a high school football coach. And Miami Northwestern didn't do too shabby either. So I think right now, Teddy Bridgewater, he's making things really interesting, Jay. And I could see him being quarterback 2. There is a scenario where he could elevate. And I think it will come down to the third preseason game.
Obviously we see with some safety issues with guys going down and, unfortunately the big injury to JJ. I mean, that sucked because I know you guys at Pewter Report were real high on him very early on.
Yeah.
What does this mean for a guy like Shiloh Sanders, right? Because I know they brought in another safety, and people are wondering, all right, guys going down. I know Izzy is also not 100%. Antoine Winfield Jr. finally being able to come back. But what does this mean for a guy like Shiloh? Is he still really, is his best shot like latching on with his team still the practice squad? Or because of some of the injuries, could he be an outside guy, possibly making the 53?
Yeah, that's another great question, because when you look at JJ Roberts, like if he remained healthy, I think he would have been the 5th safety. Yeah. They would have found a way to put him on the 53-man roster. So now without JJ Roberts, I mean, they signed a guy yesterday in Will Brooks who might make the practice squad. But in terms of keeping guys around, I think they're more apt to keeping 6 corners over 5 safeties, and then just keeping the 4 that they have, where it's Winfield, Tyke, Izzy, and Merriweather. For Shiloh Sanders, I mean, he was kind of quiet the last preseason game. I know we talked about him a little bit the last time I was on your show, but I think for him, he's a perfect practice squad guy. Like, he generates some headlines, and he's kind of polarizing in a way, but I don't think that's too much of a bad thing. And I think for him to continue to develop in Todd Bowles' defense, he's a fun guy to talk to and to watch play, but I think he still needs to show a little bit more.
What about, all right, so then the corners then. So let's roll through the numbers there. Is Kindle Vildor one of those 6 guys? Because I feel like he's a guy that coming up with the big pick, he's a veteran in this league. And I feel like when you're listening to Todd Bowles and saying that he can play a little bit everywhere, I said this to somebody the other day. They're saying like, whoa, the Shiloh. I'm like, man, when you get to the end of your corner and safety line of your depth chart right there, you want guys that are multiple, that can play corner, play safety, and then of course play special teams. And I feel like Vildor gives them that, kind of in spades. How do you see that kind of corner room? If they're going to keep 6, he's got to be one of them, right?
Oh, definitely. I think he played his way into a roster spot the last game. And Todd Bowles has really spoken highly of Vildor all throughout camp. He's saying, oh, he's a versatile guy. We don't really have to teach him much. He doesn't get too many reps, but when he's out there, he produces. And you saw that where he got an interception, he had a few tackles. Like, he plays great coverage. And I think that has him secured maybe as a fifth corner. So when you have Dean, McCollum, Morrison, and Bryce Hall, and adding Vildor, you have 5 corners, right? And then I think the last guy might be one of those UDFA corners, whether that's Tyreek Funderburk from last year, Roman Perotti, and I think even Javion Farr, if he doesn't make the 53, probably makes a practice squad. Like there's a little bit of mix there between some guys with upside at the end of the roster.
And let's not forget Jacob Parrish either. I mean,
Jacob Parrish. Yeah, he's a nickel. He's a corner. He can do a little bit of everything.
He's his own number. He's his own number, right? He's that guy. What about Antonio Greer? This is a guy that I've known for a while, being a USF guy. And man, he made an incredible play last Monday in practice, like jumping up, knocking the ball away. He comes away with an interception. I thought Todd Bowles was lying when he was early in the offseason. He's talking about the inside linebacker position. He's like, yeah, we really like it. We got some good depth there. And I was like, really? That's what you believe? I mean, you look at it with Levante and Sarasier, and they really like Dion, and then Antonio Greer. Like, where does Greer fit into the entire picture? Does he make the 53, or is he a practice squad eligible, elevate type of guy? Because he just seems to be a guy, and I don't know if I'm biased, but he just gets better every single time I see him.
Yeah, I don't think you're biased at all. And when you look at the inside linebacker room right now, it's intriguing. It's actually something I wrote about today on pewterreport.com. You can check out. But when it comes to Nick Jackson, John Bullock, and Greer, like, these are 3 guys. We talk about all the veterans in the room: Levante, Dion, Anthony Walker. But Walker hasn't played. So Greer is somebody who's making the most of his chances right now. And he's a little bit of a gamer. And I think he has value. Last year, he was on the practice squad. He's shown an ability to play on special teams. Like you saw JJ Russell the past couple of years. Why did he stick around? Special teams. So I think having 5 inside linebackers, it could be a possibility, because we don't know what's up with Anthony Walker. Like, he's been on the non-active football list, and he hasn't played at all during training camp. And again, like we talked about Benjamin Morrison, that's a vital time to get down what is a complex defense. So that works in Greer's favor. And then also Nick Jackson and John Bullock, they've been roommates throughout camp. Jackson talked today. He's a really mature player, and I could see he probably has the inside track, Jay, to make the 53. But a guy like Greer and Bullock, they're going to stick around too.
Yeah, I like that. Football players. There's more football players, more guys making plays. Big fan of those guys. What about Chris Braswell in preseason game number 2? I mean, you were up there in Pittsburgh. Not a great showing there in the first game, but man, the second game, it looked like he was much better. He was, getting to the quarterback, comes away with the sack. That's what you want to see from the second-year guy out of Alabama. What did you see from him live, up close and personal there in Pittsburgh? And maybe give me another player or two that maybe didn't stand out on the television, but from what you guys were able to see, whether it's in practice or games, made an impact on you.
Yeah, so when it comes to Chris Braswell, I feel like it's too early for Bucs fans to give up hope on him. I mean, he was a second-round pick for a reason, played at a big program in Alabama, and after, I thought he had a really good training camp, and he continues to do so. He had a couple practices with multiple sacks, and so the first preseason game against the Titans, he was quiet. He was disappointing. There's no going around that. But I thought he played better against the Steelers, and as you mentioned, he looked like he had more of a diversified pass rush move set. And you kind of want to see him take that next step, because he's raw, he's physical, so he kind of needs to develop some moves. And I think having Larry Foote as his coach this year, it's going to be huge. But at the same time, like, beyond Yaya Diaby and Hassan Reddick, there isn't much established production from the pass rushers. So you need someone like Braswell to take that second-year jump. And then you mentioned somebody else who kind of stood out in Pittsburgh. I want to bring up 2 corners, so I mentioned him a little bit before. Javion Farr, for not learning the offense, or the defense rather, at all. And he just came in at Carnegie Mellon University, and he had a pass breakup, and I thought he played well against the Steelers. And Jamel Dean, he got roasted, he got toasted early in the preseason game by Roman Wilson. He got called for that DPI. But both practices on Wednesday and Thursday last week, he had 2 pass breakups. And I think that's going to be huge for Jamel Dean, because he's paid a lot of money to make scenes, to make big plays, and he hasn't. So I think that he'll have a chance to this year, and you might see him come away with more interceptions than he has.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Jamel Dean. What do you think about Jamel when it comes to because people are looking at him now and they're like, this dude gets toasted. They should get rid of him. They should trade him. Like, what is your thought process on what his future is like, not just this year, but beyond? Because as much as we'd love for him to be able to get more interceptions, I don't know if he's ever going to, turn into Deion Sanders or anything either. So what's your take on him?
Yeah, he's not going to turn into prime time anytime soon. But with Jamel Dean, when he is on the field, he's a solid coverage corner. And I think with Todd Bowles' defense this year, playing more press man, that's only going to be a benefit to someone like Dean, who kind of thrives on that. He's a tall, physical corner. He has the speed. I mean, he has the tools. For him, it's just about staying healthy. If he stays healthy, Jay, I think that he could stay around beyond this season. But again, it kind of depends on what BMO and his status is. Like, if he looks good as a rookie, like, you might see him take Dean's spot sooner rather than later. At the same time, they know what they have in Dean, and he is affordable. That's part of the reason why they kept him around at $13 million a year, when corners these days are getting paid $16 to $18 million for similar track records. I mean, he's a good value. He's a great locker room guy, and I think he could stay around a little bit longer. But at the same time, he is getting to that point where he's already an injury-prone player, and as corners age, they get even more along those lines, and they kind of lose that established production. So it's interesting, but I think 2025 for Jamel Dean, make or break year, most definitely.
Adam, any concern about the lack of the running game against the Steelers?
I'm not concerned, because the Steelers, the past decade, I mean, really, Jay, they have had like great defenses. They're one of the best units in football when it comes to not giving up points and being stingy, kind of like Todd Bowles and his defense is one of the best. So I'm not concerned. I do want to see more out of the running backs heading into the final preseason game. I thought Josh Williams flashed a little bit. He averaged over 4 yards a carry. But Sean Tucker, like, regardless of Rachaad White's future, Sean Tucker's another guy where he's explosive, like in practice. Well, we got to see that in games. And he could probably rotate in a little bit more this year. That's something I'd like to see as a running back too. But heading in against the Bills, another tough test. I'm not concerned, because you saw the success last year, but you kind of want to see more heading into the regular season.
Adam, before I let you go, what do you think is going to be kind of the shakedown, or the breakdown rather, of what starters or what players we're going to see in that game Saturday night against Buffalo?
Yeah, so if I'm Todd Bowles, Jason Light, I'm bubble wrapping Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka like no other. After everything that's happened with all these wide receivers, man. Todd Bowles mentioned today that based on what Baker Mayfield he did last week in practice against the Steelers, he's not going to be playing. I think it's going to be Teddy versus Trask, the final showdown, if you will.
Really?
And yeah, I think it'll get your popcorn ready if you're watching it. But I think a lot of the young starters, young players on both sides of the ball are going to get some run. Obviously, Charlie Heck. But it's going to be more of kind of like a tune-up game. The last look at some of the backups, guys that we've talked about on this show, and making that 53-man roster, it's going to be huge. But it's also going to make for some fun, because these guys are hungry. Like you mentioned, Antonio Greer, he's right in the mix with Bullock and Nick Jackson. Like, all these guys are hungry and fighting for roster spots.
Love it, man. What else you guys got up on pewterreport.com, buddy?
So we just did a little bit ago, Scott Reynolds, Matt Matera kind of broke down the Jalen McMillan situation. We're going to have more stories coming out later today, kind of going over some different news. And I also have a little story in the works. You mentioned Braswell. And the lack of a veteran outside linebacker in the room besides Reddick, could they look to add a veteran? So stay tuned to that.
At Adam Lives On, always check out at Pewter Report, pewterreport.com. Our friends over there do an incredible job covering all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Adam Salon, you are the man. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Jay. Thank you.
You got it, buddy. Man, a rising star when it comes to the Tampa Bay media, our guy Adam Salon. He is all over it. Really, really good stuff there. A big thank you, as always, to our partners over at Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC. Residential commercial needs, 813-244-0956. Scan that QR code right there. And we'll go from there. And anything, you just give them a shout. Tell them that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast, and you get a discount. They got so many good things going on, and that's a true Tampa Bay Like he's a Tampa Bay sports fan. These are the kind of guys that you want to invest in. You need help. There's so many horror stories when it comes to contractors out there. Not my fellas over there at Honest Hammer Custom Builders LLC, 813-244-0956. You got a question on a kitchen or a bathroom remodel or custom home? That's the guy to give a shout to. So scan that QR code again, 813-244-0956. Let's get to some of these here. Go through these. Big bummer with J-Mac. You got that right. RIP to the great Tony Saladino. No doubt about that. Also from Chris Cole and Bart Hill. Appreciate you guys. Dolan as well. Shout out to Vicky. Thank you, Vicky. I know how much he loved you and your family as well. Shout out to Lady Evil and DT and Stephanie and Jordan. Yeah. So proud of you. I know watching your games, buddy, over the years. Unbelievable. A lot of fun stuff. Wharton Lax and Megan Blair and Karen Clementi and, of course, my pal Jarrett Guthrie over there at 813preps.com. Please go on over there to 813preps.com and read the incredible story that he wrote about the life of Tony Saladino. I know it meant a lot. Adam Slivon killing it, man. Awesome job. And you're right, Richie P. Not for nothing, Adam has come a long way. You got that right, getting better and better. And it's great. It's great to see a kid grow, man. No doubt about it. Dave, Teddy Two Gloves, lucky he didn't kill Jalen McMillan. Yeah, I know that's one of the things. Like, you don't want to be rude about it, but you watch the game and that ball goes up in the air and you're like, and then Jalen gets hit and you're like, oh my gosh, it's not good, man. Not good at all. Rays back in action tonight, guys. Trying to cling to those slim postseason hopes. Back here at home, a five-game homestand here. Rays Yankees 7:35 tonight. They're at Steinbrenner Field. Tomorrow, same thing, 7:35, and then they host the St. Louis Cardinals. 2 7:35s and a 12:10, and then on the road again, heading to Cleveland and take on the Guardians. And the slimmest and the smallest of playoff hopes that they're just hanging on by a thread. So they really need to go on a run here, but it doesn't look too good for our Tampa Bay Rays, and hopefully they can shock everybody and turn this baby around, but doesn't really look like it at all. We started the show today talking about the late, great Tony Saladino, who we lost early this morning, 89 years old. Again, I just thinking about it, and you're like, 89 years old, passing away. Oh, no way. That's why he texted me. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, so I mean, this is pretty cool. One of the best players that I've seen in recent history. Hold on, the show. Hold on, guys. I want to make sure that I'm getting this right here. Come on. Damn, I thought he would win. I mean, it's just pretty wild. All right, so we had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and now we see that it's actually happening. Our pal Parker Messick is being called up from AAA. So cool, man, for the Cleveland Guardians. How great is that? How freaking awesome is that? He's going to debut tomorrow. So TJ, his dad, I know you're that's so cool. And you want to talk about one of these guys where we're always talking about youth baseball, and we had Parker on a couple of weeks ago there in AAA, and now he's getting the call, and he's going to make his debut tomorrow for the Cleveland Guardians. Left-handed pitcher, Plant City High, Florida State Seminole, but another guy that, he played in the Saladino tournament. And how wild is that on the day that we lose the legend, Tony Saladino, another one of, and I always call the Tampa kids his kids, gets the call to the show. Oh, God, that's so amazing. That's awesome, brother. God, congratulations to Parker and the entire Messick family. That's such great news. Unbelievable. Congratulations to Parker, TJ, the whole Messick fam. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you gotta cheer for the Guardians, and maybe he'll pitch against the Rays next week. Probably, right? Wow, that's gonna be nuts. That is gonna be crazy. Wow, that's the way the world is, right? Isn't that the way the world is? I mean, we sit here and we're, obviously thinking about our guy, Tony Saladino, who passed away this morning at 89 years old. And then you have a kid in Parker Messick who played in the Saladino tournament, right? Played against Tony's grandsons, right? It's like, and now he's going to be in the pros tomorrow. So congratulations, Parker. I'm so proud of you, my man. Known you for many, many years, and to see him be that next person, that next guy here in the Tampa Bay area, be able to get the call to the show. I mean, it's awesome, man. Very happy. That's on a day where it's been tough to smile and tough to be happy about anything. That is a really, really great thing to hear. So congratulations once again to Parker Messick and the entire crew. Before we bring in our guy, Jim Louk, again, I want to tell you about my friends over at The Honest Hammer. And I always want to show you guys the site real quick because it's new. They got some new things going out. All right, there we go. Tampa Construction. I mean, listen, if you need something done, there's so many people that you can't trust around, but these are the guys that you can. Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, 813-244-0956. Website getting bigger and better. Custom homes, bathroom and kitchen remodels, new and commercial construction, interior and structural renovations. They do it all. And again, looking at some of the new home building, I mean, this is the kind of business, like the interior, kitchen, bathroom renovations. These are the guys that you want to trust. And again, call them 813-244-0956. Tell them that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast and get you a discount. Honest Hammer General Contractor Company, CGC 153116. Email them, thehonesthammer@gmail.com. Give them a shout. And yeah, trust me, you will not be sorry that you hit them up. And you got questions, man. Hey, I don't know what, I don't trust this person. I've had some horror stories when it comes to contractors here in the Bay Area. They'll be able to help you out again. 813-244-0956. Honest Hammer, a partner right here on the Jay Recher podcast. Really, really good stuff there. Let's see, anything else that we got going on? I want to make sure we always have the breaking news. We're going to talk some baseball after Jim Louk. Some of the stories that we've seen here in the last couple of nights with Tommy Pham and Ketel Marte and Kyle Tucker. The Colts have named Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback over Anthony Richardson. I knew that was not going to work there in Indianapolis. When you draft a kid that high, you're drafting him just purely based on potential and looking at what he looks like as a quarterback. Oh, he looks like a great athlete. We said that many years about Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. The more and more you say the guy looks like a great athlete, you know what you're not saying? That he looks like a great football player. And now you're starting Daniel Jones, and trust me, as a guy that's watched the Giants for the last 40 years, Daniel Jones is not it. And if anybody's going to do it, Shane Steichen, we saw what he was able to do in Philadelphia, and they're hoping, I'm sure, that they can kind of find that Daniel Jones that was able to lead the Giants to a playoff victory a couple years ago in Minnesota, but I would not put my money on that. No sirree, Bob. Big shout out to our guy right here, Chan, rest in honor the great Tony Saladino. $5 with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. Every single person that contributes via the super chat, you help us here on the program. Whatever you can do, as far as we talk about our sponsors, but also our super chats. That's how we're going to keep the J Recher podcast rolling. I was over at USF today. Really, really good stuff. Watching them practice, looking at the defensive line, what they were able to do. It's exciting. There's a different vibe around practice, and we're getting closer and closer to Thursday's matchup with Boise State. So 9 days away, Raymond James Stadium. It's an early kick, so make sure you get on out there. If you got to get a note to leave work or school early, you got to do so, because this is the start of year 3 under Alex Golesh, and we can't wait to see what this year holds. All right, let's bring him in. He's our guy, the voice of USF Athletics. Let me see, Jim. The video working for you, Jim?
Man, I'm trying. I'm not sure the hamster is running around the wheel fast enough here, but I wore a tuxedo for this and everything.
No way. All right, click the little, there's if you look at the bottom of your, when you join in, there should be something by your name. If you click it over there, let's say TV on, or hold on. Oh, I think we're getting closer.
Well, let's see. That allegedly turned it off. So
okay, let's try it again. All right, advances in modern medicine here. Oh, I guess maybe the video's not working.
I'm running out of buttons.
This is fun. It's all right, buddy. All right, let's see. Edit.
I'll pretend it's radio.
That's fine. All right, let's go back to the what was that last thing you pressed on there to switch it back to the cross out with the
Oh boy, I don't know. I've tried everything.
It's all right. All right, we can just do audio, Jim. That's fine. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. All right. You good?
I'm good.
All right, let's make it work. That's fine. That's no problem at all, buddy. All right, Jim. First off, congratulations on the new deal there with Beasley Media. You guys, your new radio partner. How exciting is that to be on such an iconic station?
Yeah, I think it's good. You know, it's a good signal. It's a good broadcast company. It's a spot where we're going to be there every game, so there'll be a little bit more consistency than we've had the past couple of years. So we're excited about it. I think it'll be good.
And it's the same crew coming back: Sam Barrington, Jim Lighthole, and Derek Sharp, Joey Johnston, right?
Yeah, we're going to be doing the same stuff we've done for the last few years. We've been fortunate to be fairly stable in the crew, so it's a lot of fun being with those guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's fun to see where the team is at now with Alex Golesh here in year 3. What's the buzz like? I was at practice this morning, but from your perspective, what is the buzz like? What is the kind of the vibes right now when it comes to Alex Golesh and this team as we're 9 days away from kick?
It's optimistic. It should be this time of year. This is the time of the year for optimism, but a lot of people talk about that magical third year for a head coach when you've got your offense and defensive philosophy in place, you've got your staff in place, you've got the kind of athletes you've been wanting to recruit in place. A lot of times you see a big step forward in year 3, and I think that's a possibility here. Jay, I think it all comes down to depth. Mm-hmm. When you look at the 2 deep the last couple of years, I thought the 2 deep was pretty strong. And it allowed them to hang with Alabama for a long time. It allowed them to hang with Miami for a long time. But it didn't allow them to hang with teams like that for 4 quarters. And I think the reason was there was a pretty precipitous drop-off after the 2 deep. And I think they're much stronger, much better in that regard with this roster. I think they're going to have a lot more depth, a lot more options. So when the inevitable injuries come, when you want to avoid having your top guys going 85 snaps, they're going to have some better options. And I think that's going to really bode well for them this year.
What did you make of the Josh Seloscar getting to wear number 63 and honoring Leroy Selman? I mean, what a class move from Alex Golish. And, Jim, you've been there from the beginning. I mean, to see a guy get on, I mean, you want to talk about legacy and impact on our area. I mean, Leroy Selman, he's at the top of the list. And I feel like this is just such a fantastic move for not just the football team, but just the athletic program as a whole.
It's so important to not forget what Leroy Selman did, not only in the athletic department or the university, but in the community as well. And the reality of it is none of these players ever met Mr. Selman.
Right.
So it's important to keep the legacy alive. It's not just walking in a building named the Selman Center. It's educating about what he was about, what he believed in, how he treated people. And Josh, has been very good in talking about what a responsibility this is to not only wear that number, to be the first guy that's worn it. It's a guy that has never played a down of USF football yet. So you really understand how much coaches and players respect him. And I think it's just a great thing. And I think Josh is going to wear the number really well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And another guy that I think is kind of central to what USF is going to be able to do this year is Byron Brown. And we know with last year and dealing with the injury and it just wasn't the season that you thought you were going to see from him, after 2 years ago, where he's putting up numbers that is really only duplicated by a guy like Jaden Daniels, who ended up winning the Heisman Trophy. Watching Byron Brown now and just knowing like what his potential is, Jim, what do you expect to see from Byron Brown, especially early on in the season?
Well, he's had a great camp. We thought we were going to see him in the spring game, and last minute they decided to hold him out. So we haven't seen him other than practice in action since Tulane last year, the game he got hurt in. Everybody that follows the team knows he's bulked up. He's added some muscle. It does not appear to have affected his maneuverability or his escape ability. The fine line with him, I think, is how often do you want him carrying the ball? He's dynamic. It's a big part of his game. It's a big part of what makes him special. But at the same time, with any quarterback, you hold your breath a little bit, when he's running downfield and guys are bearing down on him. So we'll see how many designed runs there are this year. I have a feeling there may be a little bit less than in the past, but they're still certainly going to encourage him to run when he needs to run, to maneuver when he needs to maneuver. If he can put that together, if he can put that together and also improve the accuracy on his throws, I think it could be a special year for him.
Yeah, it's hard not to think back to the game in Alabama and two of those deep strikes that weren't able to be completed, and it's hard not to let your mind wander, like, maybe, right? Because they were so competitive in that game with Alabama for the second straight year. And do you think that game right there, do you think that close matchup with Miami, do you think that helps them as they embark on arguably the toughest schedule in the country in the first 3 weeks, playing Boise State, Miami, Florida, or Florida, Miami? Like, do you think that helps them in any way, Jim, or do you think this is just a completely new ball of wax?
I think it's a completely new ball of wax. And even though you look back at some of those games the last couple of years, and we took them to the third quarter or we took them to the second quarter, well, great. Players and coaches don't care. They lost the game. And that's really what their mindset is. And I think that's a very healthy mindset. You can certainly learn from the things you did well, but they know they've got to play a more complete game, especially in this meat grinder of a schedule that starts the year. They've got to play, just like the old cliche goes, they've got to play the full 4 quarters. And that's been the challenge the last couple of years against big-time opponents.
Jim, who are some of the other players that maybe either on the offensive side or the defensive side of the ball that, you've been kind of keeping an eye on that maybe fans should really kind of learn their names because they're going to be they're going to have an impact on the squad this year?
Well, it's a whole new world in the offensive backfield.
Yeah.
Almost all the major ball carriers finished last year. So I think the big three there are going to be Sam Franklin, Cartavius Norton, and Alvon Isaac. Isaac is the only returnee. Norton actually played against the Bulls for Charlotte last year, and Franklin is a former Oklahoma Sooner. I think those are going to be the big three there. A lot of the wide receiver core is returning, but there's also some very intriguing newcomers. I would tell Bulls fans to keep an eye on Mudia Rubin, who I think they're going to play in the slot. He is a real challenge to tackle, and I think he's going to be a key guy for them. Certainly Chaz Nimrod coming from Tennessee is going to be a big guy there. And we're all kind of looking at Keyshawn Singleton to see if he can make the next step forward after his progress as a freshman last year. Defensively, I think the big story is going to be the defensive line. As you know, Jay, that's been a challenging spot for the Bulls the last couple of years. Really haven't gotten enough pressure on the quarterback. It's put a lot of pressure on the back seven because of that. They have much more depth there. They've talked about maybe even going to an 8-man rotation on the defensive line, and that's something they haven't had in many, many years. I think Kevin Patrick has done a great job with that crew. Again, they got to stay healthy, but I think that's going to be a whole new world defensively, stopping the run, getting pressure on the quarterback. The B-backers, those hybrid guys between defensive end and outside linebacker, guys like Rico Watson are going to be very critical as well. So I'm very encouraged about the defense. I think they've got a chance to really make some strides there, but I think if they do, it's all going to emanate from the defensive line.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think that's one of the things we've seen some really highs when it comes to offense over the last decade or so. And defensively, I think, that's where you got to be able to make up some of that ground. And if they can do that, then they're going to be able to hang in there against some of these big time schools that they're going to face these next couple of years. Kind of off the football, I wanted to ask you about Michael Kelly. I mean, obviously he's with the Naval Academy now. I was speaking to our good buddy Brian Segrist about this earlier today. And I just wanted to ask you, for a guy that was able to see, before MK to now after MK, what's kind of the impact that you were able to see when Michael Kelly leaves here and you look back at his tenure? What do you make of it?
Well, I've known Michael for almost 30 years because we worked together in his first incarnation at USF Athletics back around 2001 or so. A lot of the progress, I think, was internal in how things are done day to day. He's a guy who was very coach friendly. I think coaches of all sports will tell you they really appreciated the support, the budgetary support in particular that they received from him. A lot of good things. I think the stadium project kind of speaks for itself. I know that a lot of the efforts of switching conferences and maybe getting back into that Power 4, Power 5, whatever it's called this week, it's still a work in progress. But to me, an awful lot of strides were made in his tenure. I think he did a lot of great things for the university. And I think when somebody like that leaves, that has been there for a while, things happen after they go and everybody says, well, look what happens when you move on to another guy. Well, that's not how it works. A lot of times positive things happen because of the groundwork laid by people that have since moved on to other projects. And I think some of the good things that will happen to USF in the future, yes, the current leadership is going to deserve a lot of credit, but the groundwork that Michael laid, I think, is going to have an ongoing effect, maybe he won't get enough credit for that, but I think it's a very positive influence, and I think his legacy is a very good one.
Yeah, and I think about the guy that he brought in, for the men's basketball program, and Coach Hodgson, and man, I'm excited for basketball season, Jim. Yeah, I know football season is 9 days away, but you look at what Coach Jose Fernandez did last year after kind of a down year, really funky kind of year for him 2 years ago, back in there in the NCAAs last year, and then bringing in Coach Hodgson and seeing the excitement. And there's so many different, whether it's publications or websites or podcasts that are like, watch out for USF this year, the job that Coach Brian's doing there. I mean, basketball season is going to be fun as heck too, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. And, when we talk about conference stuff and trying to position yourself for the next upheaval, which we all know is coming sometime, there's a lot of things you can do to strengthen your position. But one thing you got to do is you got to win games. And you got to win them, frankly, in the right sports.
Right.
And, men's basketball, women's basketball have got to excel. And, talk about basketball hires. How about Amir? Yeah. Bringing him in and how he transformed this program in his short time with South Florida. So I think there's a lot of excitement throughout the programs. Volleyball chosen number 2 in the preseason conference poll. Soccer's are off to a great start. Track and field is off the charts with their success. Good year for baseball, as you know, because we got to do some games together. Softball, postseason again. But the bottom line is football, basketball, you better be good. You better put people in the seats. And I think the people are in place to continue that.
Jim, do you think if the conference realignment happened like 5 years before, that we'd be having a different conversation today about conference? Because I feel like if the team was, I feel like if it was like during the Quentin Flowers era, we might be talking about USF in the Big 12 right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that big upheaval hit at a not real good time for South Florida. And it's interesting, going back, Jay, all the different conferences, there was always so much anxiety. When we left the Sun Belt, we got into the Metro at the last minute, and that was just the greatest thing. Metro goes by the boards. What are we going to do? Got into Conference USA, which was a big deal at that point, and we got in after a real battle to get there. And then the Big East, and Bulls fans know how great a situation that was. Every time we hit the right solution, really until the last few years, and it's gotten a little bit more difficult. There's so many factors involved, but a lot of it is, where are you at right now? And it's undeniable. I wish it was different, but it's undeniable that South Florida wasn't in a really great place when the last upheaval came through. Now you see all the things that are in place, the budget, the facilities, the on the court, on the field success, the academics, the AAU, and it's a whole different world, but it is timing, as you know. And I guess the best news for Bulls fans is, I don't know of anybody that thinks conference realignment is over.
Right.
There's going to be another grand change, and I think they will be in much better shape at that time.
No doubt about it. He is the voice of USF Athletics, the one and only Jim Louk. Jim, thank you so much, man, for your friendship, your mentorship. Always love working with you, man, and can't wait to see you next Thursday at Raymond James Stadium for the opener against Boise State. Thanks so much for your time today, and we'll talk again soon.
My pleasure, Jay. Sorry about the camera, but I looked great. Trust me on this. I looked absolutely great today.
I don't deny that one bit, my friend. We'll get it working for next time. I appreciate you. Thanks, buddy. Good stuff, man. Jim Louk. Listen, man, it's nobody knows USF Athletics like Jim Louk. He is the best. And again, one of these people, when you talk about your careers, your career and people that you look up to and people that you want to model yourself after, Jim's one of those guys, man. it means the world to me to hear feedback. And this is a guy he's called every sport under the sun. And my first ever broadcasting thing was with him. And I'll always remember that. And I was so focused on, preparation and pronunciation. That's what everybody told me. The late Dave Wills and Andy Freed and Rich Hollenberg and Dave Micken. And I asked everybody. And then after my first game with Jim Louk, he goes, "You were very prepared." And that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. So Jim's the best. He really is, man. Doesn't get much better than that. No doubt about it. Go Bulls. Can't wait for next Thursday night. I'm ready. I'm ready for Alex Golish and for the Bulls to just knock off 1, 2, all 3. That'd be great, man. I love when people upset the apple cart. Everybody thinks, oh, it's going to go this way or that way. Nuh-uh, man. If you can get Byron Brown, right? You can get Byron Brown to play like he did 2 years ago. Watch out. He's the biggest wild card, I think, in the entire country. Because you're talking about if he doesn't play well, where's USF? Maybe in the middle of the pack. Maybe in the American. Talking about a guy, if he does really well and play as good as he did in some of these games the last 2 years, you're talking about a fringe top 25 team. I'm telling you, man. Cannot wait. It's going to be great. All right. I want to talk about some baseball stuff here, though. So Tommy Pham flips out last night. I don't know if you guys saw this, where the Pirates are playing, the Pirates are playing the Blue Jays, and he walks and flips his bat. The catcher Heineman says something behind him, and then he turns around as he's walking down to first base. He turns around and gets in his face, and he tries to fight the guy. And Heineman has no idea. He's like, "I'm not even talking to you." It was a close pitch, the pitch before, and I guess Heineman was saying something to the umpire, and Tommy Pham wanted to act like, "How dare you disrespect? You're disrespecting the umpire, you're disrespecting me, you're disrespecting the game." I'm not trying to hear Tommy Pham talking about disrespecting anybody. Dude, you went up to a guy and smacked him in the face because of fantasy football, right? Come on, man. I'm not trying to hear anything about Tommy Pham. I love the fact that he goes out there and he plays the game with kind of a no nonsense. I appreciate that aspect of it, but don't take yourself too serious either, right? You're a baseball player. You're not an MMA fighter. You're not out there on the freaking front lines of the military or anything. I get it, bro. I get it. I mean, you want to take it so serious that you're taking yourself way too serious. Relax, dude. Relax. Okay? It's just, especially when the guy's not talking to you. You want to talk about the propriety of the sport because of what the catcher said to the umpire when you're going out there and smacking people because of fantasy football. Come on, man. You're the last person I want to hear about things like that. Sorry. Ketel Marte. This has been a huge thing with the Diamondbacks where he's talked to the media. He's apologized. And there's reports out of Arizona that teammates are fed up with him. And, because he's after the All-Star break, he missed some time, went back to DR to spend some time with his family. It's been a very up and down. He's been a fantastic player for the Diamondbacks, but we saw the thing earlier this year where somebody said something about his mom and he got really emotional. And he's taken time away before for his, whether it's his mental health or being with his family. I mean, this is something that if you're an Arizona Diamondbacks fan, you kind of have to just, I don't want to say live with it, but that's just part of the thing with him. I mean, is it too strong to say he's got mental health issues? Maybe. And I'm not slighting him for it, but he at times needs a breather. And I'm surprised we don't see that more from professional athletes out there. For a guy like this, I mean, when he does play, he kills it. And you want to blame him for why Arizona struggles. I wouldn't. He's the last person I'd blame. And then they end up trading Naylor and they traded Suarez. They traded away Randall Grichuk. I mean, I'm not putting that on him. I mean, it is what it is. But I hope that it's, something that he can figure out. And maybe in the offseason, if he needs a change of scenery, maybe he does get moved to somebody else. And then another thing, Kyle Tucker has been really struggling. I know the Cubs just sat him. There was a play the other night where he ground out to first and he didn't hustle down the line. This has never seemingly been a problem when it came to Kyle Tucker, a lack of effort or anything like that. But man, what does this mean for the offseason? What does this mean for his future in Chicago? Will this kind of ruin the chances of him to go back? All right, would this ruin the chances of him re-signing and signing that big deal? And does that open the door for him to possibly be, a member here with the Tampa Bay Rays? Something that I brought up a couple of weeks ago. That would be pretty badass altogether. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me today. A very emotional show here on the program with, talking about the late, great Tony Saladino. Again, 813preps.com. Please go check out that article written by my good friend Jared Guthrie. And thank you to all the questions in the comments today about Tony. This is a legacy. He's a legend that will live here in the Tampa Bay area forever. Very, very special to me and everybody here in Tampa. Big thank you to Jim Louk for joining us on the program. Big thank you to Adam Slivon for joining us on the program from Pewter Report. I will be at Tampa Bay Buccaneers practice tomorrow, so we'll go check that out. After being at USF practice today, really good to see the defensive line do work. Byron Brown looks good. Really, really good stuff there. Ketel and Recher podcast live tomorrow from the Dignitary Cafe, so go check that out as well. But lastly, before we go, big shout out to Honest Hammer Custom Builders LLC. If we learned anything from today, talking about Tony Saladino and, life is short. It comes at you fast, and your loved ones are, they're everything. So make that time for them. Go that extra mile, go to that extra ballet recital or that little league game and, drive two towns over to be able to see somebody that's only in town for 20 minutes because life is short. And Tony, we love you. We miss you. We appreciate all you did for our community and to Tiger, Cheryl, and Misty and Todd and all the grandkids. And I love you all. And thank you all for everything. This world is a better place because Tony Saladino is here. And if you have the chance to get to know him, even for just a couple of minutes, I'm sure that your life was a whole hell of a lot better too. So make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube. I love you all. We'll see you tomorrow at noon right here on the Jay Rich Podcast. I'm gone.